Hello and welcome to Infinite Probabilities. I am Tico, your co-host, because the star is you. I would not be making this video if you weren't there to watch it, right? There's a resonance. And in this video, it's going to be really cool. I'm going to show you the easiest mind hack technique that I've learned to change our feelings around a situation, an event, etc. Let's just jump right into it. This is a technique that's based off of a book that I'm reading called Tranceformation by an author named Richard Brandler. And he was working with clients that had severe phobias. Okay. And so what he did was he had actually surveyed hundreds of people who had cured themselves of their phobias, or I should say that their phobias had been cured, whether it was by them or through a different type of process. Because most of the psychologists and hypnotists, could work on a phobia, but then it would return. So he only wanted to survey the people that were cured, who did no longer presented with whatever particular phobia that they had. And what he noticed was this commonality among all of them, which is that they all basically kind of said something along the lines of they just stopped, or they had just had enough because they saw themselves. They saw how silly it looked when they were acting out their phobia, or they saw, the reality of the situation. And so what he learned was that they were not recalling the situation, the experience, through their eyes. They weren't recalling it in first person. They were recalling it from a different point of view, the point of view of the observer. And he surveyed people who still had phobias, and they were always looking at they'd see in their mind, they're looking at themselves, they're looking at that phobia or that imagined event as if it were there. So they were representing the thought from a point of view inside the experience. And when they did that, a part of the brain responds as if it's actually happening. And we've heard that before. That's our fight and flight mechanism. That once our brain is triggered in a certain way, certain chemicals will start to rush, and we're going to respond as if this thought is actually happening from a physiological standpoint. This is also then from a psychological standpoint. So, and when they observe themselves in this first person state, and they'd imagine, so there's seeing, let's say the phobia was snakes, or seeing snakes crawling around, or they're seeing that out through their eyes, this would put them into a deeper state of panic. And we're talking about panic here because, phobias, right? But this could really apply to anything that's a negative experience in our life, okay? So the only difference between the ones who had healed and the ones who hadn't was the way they were representing the experience to themselves. Let me say that again. The only difference was the way they were representing that experience to themselves. So then Richard Brandler started working with these clients, and he would have them step out of their bodies and be perceiving themselves from across the room and perceiving their phobias from across the room, and he had phenomenal impact with clients. An example, a story he gives, is a man who was kind of had a phobia of leaving town. It was a real life Truman Show scenario. He would be able to, this is in Huntington, Ohio, he'd drive to the edge of town, and he couldn't leave. He had this giant phobia of it. And so what Richard Brandler had him do was he saw himself driving down the highway towards the edge of town, okay, the external point of view. And while he was doing that, he was imagining himself, his first person was that he was flying along the side of his truck, watching himself drive down the highway as he's flying. Then, so the him that is flying, describing this experience, he sees that the truck comes to a stop at the city line. However, the client, who was imagining himself flying, seeing himself first person that way, keeps going past that boundary, past the limit, flies right past the city. Right? So now when he comes back, his brain had already had that experience, the experience of not having the phobia, the experience of crossing that boundary or that threshold. And just like we were talking about with the chemical reactions and things, the brain can't differentiate between realities. So for the brain, it just had a real experience as if it had actually happened. And this particular example, this client immediately hopped in his trunk, went for a 3-hour drive, came back, phobia vanished. So now we're going to get into the exercise quick. If you're driving, maybe this wouldn't be the best time to do it, but feel free to listen to the video, bookmark this one, save it so you can work on this, or reference it back if you need to. I'm going to guide you through it really quick. It's short and it's effective because I like short, effective techniques personally. I'm not a fan of long meditations. My ADHD won't even get there. I like to use what works. Okay, so this is a short, effective technique. And we're going to be changing our feelings by changing our perspective. Okay, through that dissociative perspective, going from first to third person. And I also recommend then that we start small. As we're learning this technique, don't pick the most traumatic event in your life, right? That's not necessarily where to start. You can if you want to, and kudos. But I'd start small, practice, so then we can get good at this. And I was actually just doing this technique. I literally learned this technique just yesterday, and I've been practicing it since then on so many things. And I'm noticing a great energy shift in my body and in my mind. So it is really interesting. Okay. So, you can close your eyes if you want to. Take a deep breath just to anchor in. Now, recall an experience that causes you sadness or stress. As you remember it, experience it like it was right now. I want you to see through your own eyes, like you were right there. Feel through your body, like it was happening right now. Hear through your ears. Sense any emotions or associated feelings and emotions that are in the body. Pay attention to any sounds or what was said. This includes any self-talk. Imagine hearing it in your own head. Now, make a note of the degree to which this still causes you pain, this memory. Now, pretend you can step back out of that experience so you can see yourself there as if on a movie screen. Visualize, imagine, pretend. I like that word. Pretend to step back out of that experience so you can see yourself and that experience a little further away, like it was projected on a screen. And now you can use your hands if you want to, or just in your mind, you push the entire scene away from you, further and further, noting that as it moves into the distance, the colors begin to leach away and blur together. The details of the dimensions get fuzzier and fuzzier, the further and further away you push it. Push it as far away as you need to, until you notice a distinct difference about the way you feel. And then leave it where it is. Breath in, exhale, anchoring back. There's a bonus end to that technique that you can push it all the way into space and have it hit and explode into the sun. And that's like the next level alchemy transmutation there. So try this technique if you didn't right now, when it's convenient for you. Start small and let me know some of your results. I can't wait to hear your success stories. Blessings.